America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye of approval of the agenda.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Next is the public hearing.
My name is Sarah Hankman with Banner Associates, and this public hearing is starting at 7:02 p.m. for a funding application for proposed improvements to the city's water and sewer systems. If you haven't already, please sign the attendance roster that's being passed around. So here we go. And I'll first discuss the need for the project. The proposed distribution system improvements will replace existing cast iron pipe and sanitary sewer along Ash Avenue, Oak Avenue, and 2nd Street. And feel free to follow along on the last page here. This will replace aged water main and sanitary sewer that has reached the end of its useful life. The water main along other segments of Oak Avenue and Elm Street in the same vicinity has been replaced in the past 10 years, but the area in red is an area that remains to be identified as needing replacement. Another area is for looping the water main, and a hydraulic analysis was performed on the water distribution system, and it was determined that at higher flows, the system pressure would benefit from water main looping from 4th Street to 5th Street south of the school, and from 6th Street to 7th Street along Ludley Avenue. It is proposed to replace the water main along 4th Street to the existing water tower and replace sanitary sewer along 4th Street as well at the same time. Replacing the main lift station is something that was studied in 2019, and it was determined that the suction piping and the force main pipe from the lift station into the lagoon were both undersized. The wet well has also started to deteriorate. Rehabilitation of the lift station was considered as an alternative. However, replacement of the lift station is recommended. Got extra copies here. So far, this is on page 1. Next, we'll discuss project costs, and you'll see that the third page of this handout shows you alternative 1, which matches with the area in red on the map, alternative 3, which is the dark blue on the map, and replacing the main lift station. You'll see that under each title, there's both a drinking water project cost and a clean water project cost, and that's because this is for state revolving fund funding, which breaks drinking water apart from clean water. I always thought that this was kind of silly that they called sanitary sewer clean water, but clean water means sanitary sewer and storm sewer pipes. So that's what the DW and CW mean on the opinion of probable project costs. Another document that I'd like to share with you is typically a CCOG would be here in attendance. However, they sent this along today, and I'd like to go through this, which is the City of Baltic is proposing improvements to its water and sewer systems. The city, with CCOG's assistance, will be submitting an application to the Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources. The application is approximately $15.78. Any grant funds awarded would reduce the surcharge. The drinking water application will request funds not to exceed $1,934,000. The interest rate for the drinking water SRF loan is 2.125% for a 30-year term. The financing package announced in March of 2022 could be any combination of loan, grant, or principal forgiveness. If the funding package is 100% loan, the annual payments will be around $87,350. The city expects to make repayment through a project surcharge. If the requested amount is funded at 100% loan, the projected utility rate impact per user is approximately $16.24 per month. Any grant funds awarded would reduce the surcharge. This public hearing is for a funding application only. The city of Baltic will have an opportunity in March or April following the funding announcements to accept the funding. The South Dakota DANR shared proposed American Rescue Plan Act fund distribution criteria on November 3rd with us, and Baltic appears to fall in a range that could be 0%, 30%, or 50% grant. Their criteria also indicates that grant percentages could be less than 50% if not meeting rates upon project completion. That rate is $55 per month for 5,000 gallons of water used, and $55 per month for sanitary sewer for city residents. If an applicant uses local ARPA funds, these funds will be matched with state ARPA funds grant dollars. So now I would like to open it up for questions. And this is a yes.
I have a question. When you say per user, is that per citizen or just the area that is being benefited by the new piping?
Right, it's per utility user, like, so anybody that pays their water bill or pays their.
So anyone in the so everyone in the city has to pay for this.
Right, yep.
Okay.
What's the projected start and end date?
Um,
If this is all approved.
Yes, so design could start in April or as soon as we're asked to move forward with design. However, the design process takes about 6 to 9 months. So then it would likely bid the following year in the spring of February of 2023 and could be complete within the year of 2023.
I have another question. Are we financially obligated as a city if we aren't granted the amount of funding that we want? Or do we look at the grant and then decide from there if we want to pursue it?
Right.
Okay.
So in March, the funding announcement comes out, and then the city can choose at that time whether or not they would approve it.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one last question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
How was it determined that these are the areas that were going to be for the grant?
Well, like we said, we're not sure yet if grant will be awarded,
Of course.
but for the application, the areas in red are existing cast iron water main pipe. And the city of Baltic over the years has done a really good job of replacing a lot of its cast iron pipe. From what we can tell, there's, after these improvements are done, there's only a few other blocks potentially in the older part of town, possibly on Naderos and Fourth, that would be existing, I said that wrong, Naderos?
Close enough.
Nedros and Fourth. Would they be finished? So, but otherwise, other than that, you know, over on Douglas Avenue and Douglas Boulevard and Elm Street, a lot of those have been replaced
So your primary motivation of doing the blue parts is to close the loop?
Yes, the looping of the water, yes, those areas are, looping helps with water quality, and it also helps with the pressures going to and from the water tower right now, so, yeah. MCWC was in our office for other reasons, and I ran into them, and I was like, yeah, it was just in Baltic, and he said, they were really glad to see that, the city was applying for looping, and they were also glad to see that there was, some discussions within the report of a water tower in upcoming years as well.
I have a question for the council on this, if that's allowable.
Go ahead.
Should I end the public hearing, or?
No, she can ask, because I'm sure what we say will offer more. Go ahead.
So my question for the council on this is, it seems that the blue areas are around the new annex of our town, and I'm wondering why this study wasn't done prior to the vote to annex the area, so we understood the financial impact on our city and the annexation and what it would cost us all as citizens to bring this neighborhood into the city. That is not me saying I did not support it. I'm just wondering why this wasn't done beforehand. So can,
We've always known that the blue piece where you see that goes by Mark's, job site, is that business shop?
Shop,
I don't
yeah.
know if it's shop or whatever. That has always been in the talks.
Mhm.
It just, to get the grants and the looping has never been an option. So if we can get the grant, we thought we could get it taken care of. If we don't, it could come off the table. That's entirely depends on where we stand in April. So it's not like it's an absolute, like most people would assume that it's an absolute need. It's more as
It's
being
really-
proactive.
And it's really at the higher flow rates, so that the pressure is, affected, like your daily operation isn't really affected, it's just at higher flow rates.
so but was this done before the annex?
This has been in the works since 2019, or 17, excuse me, 17.
Okay,
So yes,
perfect, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Do you have an exact idea of what all other projects may be, coming into in the future? So,
Well, because I
I know
think,
Johnson and Green one, but just,
yeah,
you mentioned something about Fourth and Hebrew, just to see exactly if we're
right.
gonna have another layout of a $3.6 million project in 3 years, because we found 12 lights that need to be done.
Right, so far I went back
Yeah.
to records from as far as 2003 and was able to see that, that there was this area in green along, the elevator area was already replaced. Yeah, and then there was another, but some water main had also been improved, water main was improved within the old, kind of we're saying here, but not sanitary sewer. So we're recommending that sanitary sewer be televised.
Overall health of piping, both fresh water and sanitary sewer, if the project was completed, you would say, our overall water and sewer infrastructure would be satisfactory for the long term?
Yeah, there's, the water main down on Johnson and Kringen is, half of it is cast iron pipe and half of it is asbestos cement pipe. So that's also recommended to be replaced in the near future.
it's probably the closest one.
Right.
Yes, it's probably-
I did prepare an executive summary that helps lay out, all of the improvements proposed that will go in the front of the report here in January. The public hearing is something that is part of the report, so we don't have the whole, public hearing document, but I did bring a copy of that along as well. And I actually prepared it because I think it'll be important to go along with the funding application because of the news that we received on December 23rd about how the grant will be dispersed. With that, the current application falls right into a rate that at 0% grant, it would be really close to $55 per month and $57. So this current application, it's up to how you interpret the document that came out from the DANR on
you know what lifespan of current piping is by any chance?
You know, PVC was first put in the ground in the seventies, so that makes it about 50 years old right now. But the PVC, those initial like 6 or 8 years of PVC production, we don't know if those were equivalent to after that. So, we have heard that PVC from the seventies that's been dug up is sometimes very brittle and in need of, in need of replacement, or some cities have, or communities have even experienced water main breaks with that age of pipe. So unfortunately, because we won't know for more years than whether or not the PVC manufactured and installed in the eighties and nineties will last even longer than 50 years.
And that was prevalent when we did the Oak project, Oak Avenue. That's where my old house was, when we replaced all those lines on there. Those were done in the seventies. When they were hooking them up, they literally hit them with a hammer and it just shattered it, obliterated. So that whole early PVC that she's talking about, was starting to fail at that time, so they did have to replace some of them. Moving back into the house, into the property, I think it was 5 feet sections they had to put on, when they redid that road. So some of that early '70s stuff is starting to fail.
Yeah, and I had heard that in other communities as well.
No.
The sanitary sewer, the clay can last a long time as long as it's not disturbed and jarred but chemically the clay is very inert, but the roots can come in and the extra water comes in for the sanitary sewer. So. Any other questions? No? This public hearing has ended at 7:18. For funding application for proposed improvements to the city's water and sewer systems. If you haven't already, please sign the attendance transfer that was passed around. Does that make it all the way around?
Who else to sign that to?
I think that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. Approval of minutes. I compared them to my notes from last time, and they looked good to me. So,
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ms. Travis approves. Minute and Aaron seconds. Okay. Next, approval of claims payable.
Everyone good?
Very good.
I'll make a motion.
Travis makes a motion to approve claims payable. I need a second.
I'll second.
Carrie Sells, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's good. Visitors to be heard. Anyone? Okay, we'll move on. All right, old business. Number 8, we have second reading of ordinance 293, which is the supplemental appropriations 2021 budget. You'll see it. What? 2022. Oh, no, this is finishing 2021, yeah. Wait a minute. Okay, so second reading of ordinance 293, supplemental appropriations budget 2021 budget. I need a first and a, what?
Sorry.
Okay. You know.
I'm talking to myself.
Oh, okay, so I should ignore you, is what you're telling me? Okay. Well, I'm not, here's what you gotta say. Does anybody have any questions on that appropriation supplemental budget that we did? This is just the second reading of it, I believe. No? Okay, then I will need a first and a second to approve it. Right? Yeah.
Make motion to approve.
Carrie Sells makes a motion to approve the supplementary budget, second.
Full second?
Travis Sears, seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, and now discussion on the consideration of the skid loader quote to include the surplus and trade-in of utility tractor. We did this at last meeting, and our quote was old. It jumped. Just put it that way. This is about 10 on the top. Do you wanna talk about it?
Me?
Do you
All right.
wanna say what you want, what you don't
Okay.
want?
So at the last meeting, it was my fault, I blew my mind, or skipped my mind. So the way that the state of South Dakota bids equipment, in most cases, is a percentage off of list price, which is what allowed the price to change. So through skid loader, through Bobcat, which is Doosan, state of South Dakota is given a 30% discount off of list price. So that is what allowed the price to change from our last quote. So the price went up, but they also offered us a substantial amount of money for the compact utility tractor if we are to go through them. They offered us $10,500 to trade that in towards the purchase of our skid loader, which would get it back down to the original amount, or just below the original amount.
And that price is not included in the
Right.
quote you see in front of you, but it's written at the bottom, the trading value.
So the 85 that we see does not have the 10,500 off of it.
Right.
So then it brings it down to 86.
It does finish on the back.
Oh, 80.
So the 86 on the back is the total machine price, and then subtract 10,500 off of that.
So it'd be 76, or 75, 75, 7. Okay.
So that was, I apologize, when we had spoke about the price change and stuff, that was my bad for missing that. But
This
that was
quote's good till
till January 1st.
members.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
It's good.
Well, and then all quotes are subject to change.
Especially in the new year,
Yeah.
and pricing in the new year.
That's kind of what we were in to begin with, was
Right, that other quote.
Yeah.
inflation,
Yeah.
everything.
Obviously, skid loader's gonna basically do everything a compact tractor can do and more. Render that compact tractor obsolete for our use.
Correct.
No reason to keep it.
Right.
What year was that tractor?
2000,
The 4,300 is
4,200. I want to say it's early 2000.
like a two
We
or
paid,
two or
if I remember right from what Ken said, I think we only paid like $4,000 for it, $4,000 or $6,000.
And we're getting 10 for it?
10 bucks, which is over double what anybody else offers for.
That is double than anybody else offered us.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everything else is the same from last year.
Exact same, as far as the Bobcat, the machine itself goes, it's the exact same as what we looked at in the machine.
So what we need tonight is pretty much just an approval of the new amounts, correct?
And to include the surplus and trade-in of the utility tractors, but we are allowed to do that.
I will make a motion to approve
I'll second it.
the spending we need an up to amount, is that how you want that? Is that what we did last time? So the new amount will be $75,229.15. Somebody check on that?
You got that, right? You did 50 instead of 500. So I think it's
Oh, sorry, look at the front
75,779.
number, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I forgot about that number.
Okay, so I have a first and a second to approve the bill up to, what did you say to the price? I'm sorry.
Hold on.
I was trying to write it fast as you were talking and I didn't get it.
76,779.15.
75, it's $75,779.15.
15 cents.
Okay, so I got a first and a second, all in favor say aye. Oh,
In the motion, the declaration of surplus.
can I do I have to
Include
include
that.
that to that,
Yeah.
not do it separate? Okay, I was thinking we had to do it separate,
Oh,
sorry, my
no
bad.
problem.
To include the surplus of the early 2000 compact utility tractor for 10,500 for trading. Okay, I got a first and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
You got that amount.
yes. Next is consideration of the railroad agreement contract. Beck, I'm gonna let you talk about the railroad agreement contract since we were all slightly confused on
Yes,
the last
railroad
meeting.
contract agreement is included in the budget, and it is a 10% contribution to the city. The rest of the funding is a grant. So when we sign the contract, we're saying, yes, we're agreeing to disperse 90% of it is covered through a state grant, 10% of it becomes the city's responsibility. That's
we don't approve it, we're on the hook for 100% of it
Correct.
whenever it breaks down or needs to be done, correct?
When we have our
When we have our inspection, it doesn't meet standards, which is coming quickly, is my understanding.
Yes.
A year, okay.
I make a motion to approve the agreement of the contract, would that be correct?
Second.
So all in favor say aye to approve the railroad agreement contract?
Aye.
Opposed? There we go. All right, consideration of the GIS proposal from Banner and Public Works. If you remember in November.
They decided.
Yeah, okay, well, just Banner. What, we decided to look at both of them and we wanted Bill to look at both of them to see which one would benefit Baltic better. And Bill agreed with the Banner piece of that. So that is right here.
17 something or something like that.
It should be the blue. You know, 11, implementation and first year cost is $11,000. Equipment to purchase is $6,800 and $500.
So 7,200
Yeah,
on top of the 11,
on top of the 11.
18, 300
Yeah,
plus whatever passes.
right. And then there's this labor rates and expenses.
I guess in my mind, I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, it does above ground and below ground mapping. It's basically Bud on a computer. I mean, that's what we're really looking at.
And I think it would be beneficial when, like, the public has these kind of questions about the water and sewer that we necessarily don't have offhand,
Right.
like, right when we need to, that they can ask those questions and we can have that information.
I agree. I
No.
mean, I use GIS a lot for so much different stuff, and at the end of the day, I mean, we're a technology-driven world. We're either getting on the board or we're trailing behind. That's just the reality of it. And, I mean, the knowledge that we have of this town, I would like to get Bud involved to just make sure before
Right,
as we're going through this, that our things are accurate, because we all know that he is pretty accurate at knowing where everything's at.
I'm just getting to that age where,
Right. I think it's a smart choice and a smart decision moving forward to be for the city.
Somebody have feedback last on comment, was it Balder or somebody that had used it?
Yes, and then we did an online, preview of another city with Banner, and it was
We went,
really nice.
can I talk?
Yes.
yeah, please, by
So,
all means, because you're gonna be the ones using it, I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
so what she's talking about is we did like an online Zoom meeting, myself, Brad, I think Dan was in on it too, Bill. So what Banner did, I cannot remember his name.
Right.
Frank, there we go. What he did is he walked us kind of through the basic gist of how the system would work, and then he actually was able to show us what Volga has. They utilize the same system. And so he walked us through all the different things that they can do with theirs. And that's not to say we have to do what they do with theirs, but it was very nice to see what they do, or what's capable of the system. For me, I think it would be a great investment for the city. One of the big benefits, especially to the public, is say Dan's water line breaks in the basement. If we have it on a GIS map with a surveying tool that gets us within an inch of it, I believe it's within an inch, roughly, to walk out in your yard, and it'll tell us exactly where that's at, so we're not walking around for an hour trying to find it based on a maybe map in City Hall. So it would save a lot of time when things are of the essence like that.
Well, to that, it would be essential for underground people, for any contractor essentially.
Right.
Digging, because
Yeah.
Any
in most
location
cases,
services.
Right.
right, everything you can, if they buy a plot, you can say, okay, this is the plot, this is what's all close to it.
Yep. So it's gonna make our job easier if we've got contractors who are doing work, whether it's for us or someone else. If a business needs something excavated on their lot, if there's a water line in the vicinity of it, we have to go locate it. If we know exactly where it's at, because it's been mapped, it makes our life a lot easier, it makes it better for the contractor. Another cool thing that we can do with it too, like if we have our sewer lines cameraed and jetted, or the camera clip from a section of pipe to the GIS software. So if we want to go back, say they cameraed it this year, if we want to look a year from now and see what that pipe looked like, we can pull that up and they're able to apply that to the map. So we can just click on the section of pipe and we can see, like if we do the update on the system over there, we can put in there that from this manhole to this manhole was installed at this date and it's this material.
Yeah, it's down to almost the date, not the, early 2000.
Yeah, you can put in, I mean, you can input your own information to put in exactly what is there, so we can put all sorts of information.
Keeping track of your, water hydrants, fire hydrants flushing, or the age of them, what the repair is, timeline. There's a lot of benefits into this. You were just discussing a problem, we got it back over behind Tony's building. Nobody knows where the shut off's at.
No.
Perfect thing, and once we find it, we don't know where it's at.
Right, and that's the thing, like, this system isn't gonna tell us, we're not gonna buy this and it's gonna automatically tell us where they're at. We're still gonna have to find the ones that we don't know, but once we find them, it's a click of a button on an iPad or a tablet, and you walk right to it, so.
It's gonna be a lot of data input.
Right, it's gonna be a lot of data to put in, but once it's there, it's no longer gonna be coming through 800 filing cabinets worth of old maps and
It'll be
one
more
map
efficient.
with a drawing. It's
Or
100%.
100% more efficient from there.
What's all the data in it?
It's mostly on us, I believe, that Banner will help with some of it if we want them to.
Like
But a lot of it-
everything right now, like for what Hefty's is, that'll already be inputted because they've already done that.
Yeah.
They've already done that part. But our old stuff, it's what happened.
It'd be utilities, so you'd have water, sewer. I thought electrical, you could show underground electrical.
If the city took on the electrical utility, I'm sure we could.
If we
But
add
we
that
could
as an
still
option.
map it, we could
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
put it in,
Yeah.
I mean, so you start looking at that, I mean, below ground stuff plus above ground, you could add culverts, you could add where your box drainage are.
Yep.
You can do so much to put in there.
Yeah, Zach,
How about communication, like telecommunication lines? I have an issue with telecommunication
I
lines.
mean, it's not really, since the city doesn't provide that service, it's not really something, but we could reach out to them and see, hey, maybe, if we reached out to them and said, hey, do you guys have a map of this? If we could implement that, if they're willing to give us that information, we could certainly implement it into the system for us.
it's an option,
Yeah.
not that we necessarily
Right.
have to.
My generally, you could.
Yeah, and then.
Would you, okay, so I guess more specifically, would you have to do it all? I
No.
mean,
No, it totally comes down to how much.
full disclosure, I found the fiber optic line way out of whack on a place there wasn't supposed to be anything, should be. And it would be real nice to call in and go, hey, just so you know, this is here, you know,
Right.
for future reference, because no one else is gonna find that other than I happen to be.
That you have to do. Right. Yeah.
So for future reference, or for first-hand experience, when I built my place, we couldn't find the water main. We dug here, there, everywhere. I mean, you remember where everybody thought it was not. So this is, you
This
know,
isn't gonna, I mean, we still find every water.
It's
main.
not, but it's
In
not
the
gonna find them.
beginning, so.
But where this is gonna be very advantageous for us is, if we do this project on Oak and Ash where we replace that, we can essentially create our own as-built maps with this system, so that we're not having to rely on contractors. So the stuff that's below ground already, we're kind of relying on what Bud has and what we know and what Banner has to offer, but if we go this route going forward, it's an infinite amount of data that we can put in this space.
And then every time we update something, like if we were to do this, that would automatically get on. Just so I'm,
Yeah, in 2009, the water valves and hydrants and manholes were surveyed. So, and that data is still good. So those will be, in the day that you initiate the
That'll automatically be
software,
there.
those will be there.
okay.
And then, people could start, with.
So it's not like starting from scratch per
Right,
se.
then you start to look at maps and say, okay, that valve went in at this time based on this map, and then you start to connect the dots based on the mapping you had. And then it's still not perfect because it might have meandered slightly or something, but it's.
But it's closer than what we would want.
Yeah.
I think it's a great tool.
The motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve.
Okay, GIS proposal from Banner?
Yes.
I'll
in favor say aye to the GIS proposal from Banner.
I,
Opposed? Alright, new business. City mapping P&Z President, Mr. Droyer, information, please.
Okay, so I've been working with Jason Rojas at CCOG. Unfortunately, they have had the Rona go through their office. So I was hoping to have a completed map tonight, that way we can get it submitted through planning and zoning for approval, and then keep working on the comprehensive plan. Unfortunately, that has been delayed a couple of weeks due to COVID. Jason's last email was yesterday. He will hopefully have to be by the end of the week. He's catching up from 2 weeks worth of work, so he's hoping to still proceed forward with that. As soon as I get that done, I'll forward it to you all for questions initially, forward it to planning and zoning, and then we can get that map updated for our initial foundation for the comprehensive plan for 2050. That should relatively come pretty quick once we have this initial map updated. Everything else should be more or less automatic. They're gonna put in some demographics, water flows, where they plan on movement going. That's gonna be one conversation we're gonna have to look at it when working with Banner. See, hey, what position we plan on going north. You know, if we're installed up that north might get sold. If we're installed up more south, we might get developed. Just trying to pinpoint exactly future water tower, future water lines, sewer lines, try to be proactive, kind of like they did when they put in that oversized line at the school.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that as we're doing these projects, you know, a little bit of forethought, it makes more sense to spend an extra 50 grand now than it does 500 in 10 years when they have to take it all up to redo it. So that is still moving forward. Hopefully the plan is to have all this stuff buttoned up. My goal is 1 February, to have the P&Z map done, with CCOG, and then we will start, hitting out the comprehensive plan and get that done. I know the last map took about 13 months to do, but obviously technology is enhanced quite a bit since they did the last one, so hopefully we can get that squared away and move forward. Any questions? Okay, also personally, my plan of attack right now, even though I've spoken with some of you, I have applied for my doctorate. I will be starting that in June. So my plan is to step down from this position, effective May, the May meeting. So that gives us 6 months to look for a replacement, gives you guys time to plan, move forward, there's nothing wrong with that. I'll be instrumental in keep moving forward with this. So, any questions, let me know, and we'll keep moving forward.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We'll keep looking at it.
I know. Don't you worry.
well, we're gonna deny that.
So that, yeah, we're not accepting that.
I'll just not set it up. We'll hold it here.
All right, next thing on the agenda for new business is a water bill dispute. You all have your letter in front of you from Mr. Bob Sittig. This is on his personal water and sewer bill for his home at 425 Kringen. He is requesting the total charges be adjusted based on the following information. This summer, they installed an underground sprinkler system in anticipation of reseeding their lawn this fall. But they advised the lawn seeding contractor they waited approximately the 1st of September to have herbicide applied by a lawn maintenance company that killed approximately 2/3 of their lawn. Within a couple of days, lawn seeding contractor reseeded their entire lawn, taking advantage of the optimal grass growing month of September. They began sprinkling their lawn on a daily basis. They made a conscious decision to reseed and water their lawn and accept the resulting increased water usage. What they're questioning is that his understanding is for the months of September through May, which actually May through September, sewer charges are based on and most equivalent to the level of water usage. That's our summer rates that he's talking about, but I think his dates are off because we don't go through September.
May through August.
We go through August. So he's misunderstood that we went through September. Thinking we went through September. He said, basically, I'm trying to, let's see how to read all of this to you guys. He's requesting that the formula be used in the summer to calculate the sewer charges for the September bill. And, is it both? The September and August?
One's an estimated.
One's an estimate, one's the actual. Okay, thank you. He would like us to approve his September bill basically to be at the summer rates. And let's discuss.
I do believe per the ordinance that is rates in the first place.
Right.
But ours is,
Yeah, I believe our ordinance states if they have a water break, then
if it's a water leak, that is disputable,
right.
from the way I interpreted the ordinance. I guess if it was me personally, what I would do is see if their company that killed their grass would be willing to cover some of the costs, but based on the information I have read through, we can't even dispute it, or we can't change it if we want to,
Change it if
based
you
on what
want.
the ordinance says.
For our ordinance.
Yeah,
Or the ordinance.
do we have to have a first and a second if we decline, or just deny it, or not? Is that the general consensus?
I agree.
Deny it,
Yeah.
move on?
And certainly give them a footnote
We would be,
after the fact and said, hey, here's what you can do.
Yeah, here's what you can do, and we will, and I think that with this being brought up, I think, later, not tonight, of course, we should discuss maybe extending the summer rates into September, because I know it's been a lot, really, yeah, and I'm not meaning changing the dates of when they start and when they end, I mean adding another month.
because
So-
our trend,
Our trend is getting that it stays warm in September.
yes.
And like this, perfect example, if you talk to a seeding company, they're gonna tell you you should seed in September. I mean, it's just, he did everything they told him to do, he just didn't know that September was not on our summer rate. That makes sense?
I think it's a conversation to have in a few months.
Yes,
Yeah.
just put it in the back of your head. Okay, so we have that. So, next item of business is the resolution. What? Oh, we need a motion to deny? Oh, okay, I need a first and a second to
I make a motion to deny it.
deny.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye to deny the water bill dispute.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next is the resolution 2021-8 is the resolution authoring an application for the financial assistance authoring the execution submittal of the application and designated authorized police representatives to certify and sign payment requests. What? What?
On the scene?
We're surplusing something?
You get a draft?
Do you know, I bet it's a drop.
Yeah, we have to do it. That's.
Oh, never mind.
I'm like, oh, what are you talking about?
It's the first one.
First one. Okay, so what this, is this to put in a new lift station? Am I reading that right?
This is just what we heard at the.
Oh, this is what we heard. This is
These are the resolutions to apply for the financial.
to approve to apply for the
Yeah.
funding.
Right.
Okay. And what we have to do, 2021-8 is for the water, or is it sewer?
Clean water.
Clean water is 08 and 09 is not?
One drinking water, one
Right,
sewer.
First is clean water, second is.
Okay, thank you.
And the reason behind approving it is, if I recall right, reading the information, is that in order, if we don't approve this, we don't get put in the bucket for
Or no?
funding for
Right.
even being looked at. So,
Right.
We have to approve for the application.
We have to approve
Right.
the application to get funded.
Yep.
right,
Okay.
so
Make a
this
motion to
isn't
approve.
still,
And this is not,
Resolution 2021-08.
I was gonna say, this is not a binding contract.
No,
Putting us
right.
on the hook for
No.
$3.6
No,
million.
it's not. This is
No.
approving to get the funding. Okay, so I got a first from
To
Gary
apply.
Sells to apply
And
for
just
the
making,
funding.
just making sure that.
Yeah.
Yes, everybody's on the same page there. Okay, so I got a first from Gary Sells to approve the application for funding.
I'll second.
Shears seconds. All in favor, say aye to the approval to request funding for 2021-8 resolution.
Aye.
All opposed? Right now, this is the other side of it.
I
So
make a
this,
motion to approve resolution number 2021-09.
second,
all in favor, say aye to the resolution authorizing an application for 2021-09.
Aye.
Opposed?
aye.
All right, so there we are. Next is resolution 2021-10, a resolution supporting the work of the Baltic Economic Development Committee and further partnership with Sioux Metro Growth
And
Alliance.
this one is Mr. Jesse Fonker.
Mr. Jesse Faulkner, please rise.
And of course, our projector goes off, like what, 8 minutes here?
I was trying to be fast.
The public hearing is too public.
There's the remote.
Just kidding, to those that are listening recording, this was a joke. Well, hey folks, as we get this warmed up here, my comedy act will come to a close. But thanks for the opportunity to come and speak to you. We have been really fortunate to work with your community for a number of years, but especially the last 9 months, gosh, not 9 months, 90 days, excuse me, in our economic development management service. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about our organization, what we do, and then kind of give you an update about the work that we've been doing and what we're hoping to do in 2022. Mr. Stolberg is going to sit right here and help me scroll through the presentation.
Thank you.
If somebody is too frugal of mine.
Not really. I'm gonna get up
Is it
here.
better or worse?
Is it better or worse? Do you want better or
Sit down. Number 1 or number 2? Number 3?
Not the jokes are gonna.
A or B?
I got it now.
Okay, we're good.
All right, thanks. Deb, you got a good view?
Yep, I do. Thank you.
All right, first slide here. Thanks. So, just a reminder, our mission is to stimulate, sustain, and support the economic growth of the communities, businesses, and general stakeholders of the metro area outside of Sioux Falls. We got a pretty grand vision, right? We want to be the best economic organization we can be, because we know that we are supported by public dollars, which come from the people that are in this room, along with the rooms all across the metro, having meetings just like this one tonight. Next slide, please. So, as another reminder, our organization is a consolidation between Lincoln and Minnehaha County Economic Development Associations. For those of you that don't know, Makita was hatched across the street in the basement of the old, I hope I'm saying this right, Split Rock Telephone Company, is that right? Now Alliance Communications. And so we've been really fortunate to be supported by Baltic for a number of years, pretty much since 1991. So this has been our 30th year in existence. 31 will be next year. We serve these members here, and we're really excited to announce that Salem will be the first community to join Sioux Metro outside of Lincoln, Minnehaha counties, starting in January 2022. So what do? People often ask, what does your organization do? What is economic development? Well, frankly, we don't know half the time. We rely on you to tell us what you want. But to kind of simplify what we can do to help you figure that out is 2 pillars, growth and engagement. So growth is what most folks think about when they hear economic development. New businesses, business expansion, more housing units in your community, sales tax growth. These are all the things that people want to see in their town, for the most part. Right? People don't move to the Sioux Falls area because they don't want to see any growth. They want to move to an area where there is momentum and energy and a vibrant community. And unfortunately, since many of our communities don't have job centers, the communities have vibrancy to them, but a lot of it's siloed off. Which leads us to the engagement side, our second pillar. This, I think, helps us prepare for growth. This is where we have the marketing programming to talk about what your community does, what it is and what it isn't. This is where we work to implement our staff support program, also known as the Economic Development Management Service. This is where we work towards educating the public and the officials on economic development policy. What you can be doing is a time to be competitive, to ensure that you are attracting the best and brightest. And community development. This is where we work with your local organizations to ensure that they have a plan in place and that they're executing it. And this is really tough to measure success. You can do it through digital engagements, you can do it through an improved understanding, but this is kind of what we talk about being the soft skills of economic development. You gotta have this stuff to ensure that the hard skills can be executed. Next slide, please. So membership. Baltic is a member, what does that mean? I'll tell you in a second. So your membership is paid annually, it's based on population. You're gonna hear this presentation from me about twice a year, and I'll say it different ways every single time, so it's interesting. I hope, because I know I'm competing with your cell phones right now. But as you grow, our organization receives more funding from you. So this is where it was set up back in 2010, that we have an incentive to help you really push population growth. Because you can see here, these are the 3 tiers that we're funded by from your community. So as you move into these different categories, you receive more funding from your organization to help us execute your program of work. The idea is that the bigger communities receive more of a benefit because they have more programs in place. I don't completely believe that myself, But I think that was kind of the thinking back in the day. You do this annually, and this also gets a position on our advisory board. You should have received a resolution sometime last week where you will be appointing somebody onto our board from your community, and then also an alternate. We have to be at 10 board meetings. One of those board meetings will be hosted in the Baltic area next year. And we want your input, right? We don't want to be just an organization that tells everybody what to do. We need you to advise us so that we can advise you back. And this is where it's really important to have somebody on our advisory board that's attending. But Becca right now is a representative and has a good attendance. Thank you. So your advisory board right now is made up of municipalities, counties, utility companies in good standing. Like I said, your representative will be appointed in January. We're moving these meetings back out to the communities. They've been in Sioux Falls since about 2015 or 2016. We think we have an opportunity to get folks back out to the rural and suburban areas to see what's really going on, see what the opportunities are at. Our board is made up of a lot of different people from different backgrounds, both in the financial industry and utility industry. We want to see what you have going on here, and that's what's helped us really move into the decision going forward. Next slide. So the details, like we kind of said, the 2 pillars of growth, let's say it a different way. We work with your EDOs. So we recently are helping you create your first EDO, which we hope to have completely incorporated in January. We work closely with your council administration on what we can be doing to attract more businesses and families into your community, and coordinating with your local leaders. One of the things that I think Ryan has been working on is the retention and expansion program. All the things that I say in this slide, our management service can do 16 to 20 hours a week. So for me, my job, I'm there to be your consultant. I'm there to help really execute big picture items. But a lot of the big picture stuff requires minutia throughout the day. That it's tough for volunteers to really fully do all the work themselves. In a way, our management service is kind of like the quarterback, or even the coach in a way. The coach can come to plays, and the folks on the board execute it. We really just want to help your town. Next, this is one of the things we're working on. This is an update. It's a code of ethics in the towns. They wonder, well, hey, Jesse, what's stopping you from stealing all of our businesses from this town to the other? Guys, I don't have that power. If I did, I would not be in this job, okay? I would be owning these businesses myself. We can only provide information to businesses and give them the best data at hand. But to just kind of cement this, we've created a code of ethics that will be passing tomorrow at our board meeting at 7:30 a.m. that really just helps us guide the work, and it's also just another assurance on your side that we're working in your best interest and the region's best interest. Because at the end of the day, we really can't tell any business what to do. We want to provide the data to them, information. Our real work is working with you to make sure that you can be the most competitive community you can be to attract the businesses that you want to attract. Next slide, please. So deliverables you might see from us, we're kind of like a gym membership. You gotta, come to us, really the benefit. We can't just tell you to do this and do that. You gotta give us projects you want to do. What we're trying to do is be a little more proactive, so you actually are getting some deliverables yourself. So we're working to really build our database. We launched our website, SiouxMetro.com, that has a lot of information on it, but can be continually improved. We want to really coordinate the landowners going forward to make sure those relationships are in place and that we understand where the sites could be for bigger and smaller projects. In communication, this has been huge for us. It's been an area we got to improve on. We know that. So we launched our website. We launched an email marketing tool in there as well. So if you didn't have a chance yet, go to our website, SiouxMetro.com. Click on sign up, email sign up, and register for our newsletter, the Sioux Metro Minute. Ryan is also now doing a monthly newsletter called the Baltic Beat. And so if you want to know what's going on in Baltic, we work with you to get information, put it out there so folks are more informed and engaged in the process. Business attraction, retention and expansion, industrial park development, education, these are all things that are pretty self-explanatory. I think when it comes to the R&E, this is your number one source of new businesses, or as your existing businesses. Business attraction takes time to really be successful. It really is a complex approach to development, which I think this position, if you choose to move forward with it tonight, can really help get the ball rolling even more so. Long-term growth as an organization, we want to really get into McCook and Turner counties, and there's a lot of potential there. We've had a ton of success with the management service program. We're only launching it about 6 months ago. Del Rapids has signed up for it. Salem has signed up for it. Lennox is doing it, and I think Worthing, if we can find another community to pair with Worthing, they would want to be in it as well. We're working with Colton right now to possibly look at the service. They have some concerns based on how small they are, but for me, I think the smaller communities are the best fits for the service because that's where there's so much work to be done to make things ready for growth. At the end of the day, you can measure a success by, back one slide really quick.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Is to help widen your property taxes, grow your sales tax dollars, and increase your population. These are all things that you can measure. Whether or not it's us doing it or other forces at work, hard to say. But tell you what, communities that have economic development typically see more growth than those that don't. I'm sure if I Google a study, I could find some data that supports that point. Right, Ryan?
Yeah, Dakota Resources did a study in northeastern South Dakota with communities that had a consistent economic development organization and professional versus not, and found consistently that the communities that did have more full-time or more professional support did see better growth over time.
Yeah. So I think there's some good data there. A few more last updates for you. In the long term, we want to create a cooperative investment model with our communities. Maybe you're familiar with the Corson Development Park outside of Brandon, where Marmon Energy is located. We are part of that investment group back in 2000. I am challenging my board today and the next few months to find a way to create more of these types of developments outside of the Sioux Falls area. Our towns and school districts can't survive alone on housing and rooftops. We gotta have commercial growth, we gotta have jobs, and I think each community has an asset to it. In Baltic, your asset is 115, it's I-29, it's your proximity to Sioux Falls. These are all things that can play in well as we create a strategy for you. Versus the Garrettson, where their largest asset is tourism with the parks that are there and they're downtown. Each town has a strength, and our job is to help find that strength and really bring it out. Policy is important. We want to do a leadership initiative. That's going to get you doing funding. That's really kind of expensive to launch, but it's so important. We have a roundtable that we do, that's going to be starting monthly in January. Our next one is Thursday or Friday? Friday.
See?
I was testing you.
I knew you were.
And we're going to expand this management service broadly. So everything I said today is what Ryan can do for you, but do it even better than what I can as one person. Because I have 14 communities that I serve. I can't be in every community for 16 to 20 hours a week. That doesn't work that way. But our management service helps give that extension of what I do with somebody that has understanding of your own town, the people here, and the opportunities to make sure that we're moving the ball forward in a quickly manner. Next slide. Just do a quick overview for you. Wages are going up, land prices are going up, cost inputs continue to increase. Workforce availability and building availability are key to landing new projects and families. Both are being affected by things that we can't control. International forces that are at work, who knows what's going to happen in the Pacific in the next 5 to 10 years, could create a lot of opportunities for us here in South Dakota, or it can totally change the conversations that we're having in 24 to 36 months. I don't know. In this area, we do know that housing demand is continuing to increase. You might have saw the governor's address that there's going to be $200 million put towards housing. What that means, who knows? We'll circle back in March because there's going to be a lot of jockeying in the legislature starting in January. All the while, costs are increasing in housing, which is making it nearly impossible for young families and those that are in the workforce to get affordable housing, which it creates more problems because if folks don't have a place to live, they're going somewhere else, or they're not able to meet with their kids in daycare, which then creates more workforce issues. So it's all part of the same problem. Last slide. If you have any questions for me, go to the website too, and then just go to the next one. These are our events. Please save the date for these. Just know that we're actually going to do the conference from the 11th through the 13th. We're going to do an optional tour bus Monday night. We're going to go to local watering holes around Lincoln County, learn about the economic impacts of bars. So, more information coming soon. Questions? Leave it on that. That's not what's on the first slide. That's basically blank. As Brian's pulling that up, the whole thing just shut down. It's just dead now. I'm just kidding.
Timer.
What puts you different with the organization, and then we can maybe discuss the resolution and the program going forward.
Yep.
Thanks, Dan.
Lights in.
I'm getting the back.
Yeah.
What will we as taxpayers
Questions on the
actually
organization
do
we're
with
doing?
this? Do with the rule.
We're gonna send the presentation out to you in PDF format, so you have it in your records. Talk resolution, questions you have for me about the service, what we're doing, what we're doing.
This is twofold. We're
Yep.
resolution of continuing to
Yep.
using for the year.
Yep.
And then hiring.
That includes
Alright.
contract.
That includes the contract for
Correct.
hiring, right?
You're gonna get Ryan more. When we sign this contract.
Not any more than we were, I was gonna say, no.
You stopped getting me for free.
Yeah.
Then we're not gonna see more.
We'll see more.
How many hours was it?
It's an average of 16.
16 to 20.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, remember too, we have our own economic development organization forming as well that can do, share some of the legwork that Ryan does as well.
Yes.
Not everything's falling right on his lap.
No,
And it
but
should.
he's helping moving them forward, which is huge because moving them in the direction that we feel
We
is the
can,
right
we can
way.
elect 5 guys to form a board and tell them to let it rip for volunteer basis, but I, personally, I don't think that's the right way to do it because you have no guidance.
John? Go ahead.
How will we as taxpayers know that there's some progress in this annual $40,000 investment that we're making?
38.5 to start, but we're working to really establish some better metrics. So we launched the service in May, and we really have just been kind of figuring it as we go. We've heard from our board, from our stakeholders, they want to see what work are you doing. So starting in January, we're going to be reporting on the tasks that we're doing for you. But again, we can't decide where businesses go. We can't make businesses do anything. We can only advise you on the strategy that is successful, in our opinion. And so at the end of the day, we're only as good as our volunteers. And so we can advise the volunteers and the board to do certain things, but unless they do those steps to ensure growth, there's really no way to really measure or ensure that things are going to be happening.
I guess a way that I always describe it is in terms of outputs and outcomes. A lot of economic development work, both on the professional side and also on the volunteer side, is trying to do the little things right. Doing your business retention and expansion, trying to get a brand going for your community, being cognizant of what issues your community is facing, because ultimately the decision about where a business is going to locate or what the economy is going to do tomorrow is in a way out of our control. Stock market could crash tomorrow, and next thing you know, I'm looking pretty bad as a professional. That's something that might be completely out of our control. So I think what I always like to focus on is on those outputs. What am I doing in my role? What can I control as kind of deliverables to you all as a community that is getting us going in the right direction?
Furthermore, we do monthly reporting to the board, and then we're working on creating a quarterly format so we can have reporting of the different tasks that we've done, hours that we've worked. So as part of the contract, we're showing that we're measuring those, we're meeting those minimums, but then also annual as well.
And I think the deliverables will become clearer as each community joins the EDMS, because each community is going to want slightly different deliverables. Lennox, we've gone through strategic planning, so now we kind of have an idea of what those deliverables are. Here in Baltic, we've had conversations with you all in the city, we've had conversations as a board. The deliverables haven't been totally decided on yet, and that's partially because what's the first project, right? What's the first thing? We don't know. And that's
Well, we've got options.
right, yeah, and we're working on presenting
So it's
options
just
to the board.
Trying for the board to decide which one they want to jump with first.
Yes.
Not that they're not going to jump with all of
Right.
them,
They
right?
should.
Like, Nikki
This
did
is
actually.
right on.
Go ahead.
Are you going to then have minutes of these gatherings there, or some, so we have kind of some sense of what activity is going on?
You mean an economic development
Yes.
group?
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
my
maybe,
monthly
yeah.
report.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at minutes too for all the board meetings. We don't disseminate it out to the public generally because a lot of information can be confidential. So we're dealing with businesses information. But we do have minutes, they are created, they are written. I mean, if you request them, certainly we can share them with you. We don't publish them online.
Okay.
Depending upon what is discussed, some may be redacted. If we're discussing sensitive information regarding a business relocation, that's not something that can be public knowledge.
Discussed. Yeah. Nikki, you had your hand up.
So you had, thank you, Tracy.
Yeah.
You have you guys and volunteers. What does volunteers mean? Who are the volunteers?
the volunteers, so it would be the Baltic Area Development Foundation that we're working to incorporate and create. And the
So
board of
you
direct-
want people in the city to volunteer to help you achieve your $40,000 a year stipend?
No, I don't think that's the way it's done. Our job is to help the volunteers execute a plan of work.
So why don't we just hire a realtor?
Because realtors don't do economic development.
Well, I don't know that this is, I'll be very honest with you, I've lived here for 35 years, and I don't know where you think you're gonna put anything in this town.
Well, that's their job to figure out, that's their goal, is to figure
Well,
that
you've
out.
had this before.
But maybe
Yeah.
something's new and different.
I
I mean,
doubt it.
Brian didn't buy the housing development, he just did, and years, when I first moved here, Bruns was never gonna sell that to him.
Well,
And now look where we are.
Well, Bruns is now 80 years old.
Right, but things change. You never know, someone might decide they might decide the corner bar that's been sitting empty forever, that he's going to take pennies on the dollar and finally get rid of it. Then that becomes something that,
He won't.
well, as of right now,
But see-
but you don't know that, neither do I. I mean, that's the whole point.
That's the deal with this, is you.
It's a crapshoot.
Right.
But that's where we're at. What, I'll put it this
Let
way.
me put it to you this way, what are you gonna build for this town that's not in Sioux Falls? People will drive to Del Rapids and they will drive to Sioux Falls before they will shop in Baltic, I guarantee it.
And that's our challenge that we gotta find a way to fix. And that's what
Because
we're talking
we've had
about.
a, we've had a
You
grocery
want
store.
answers or not?
No, I'm saying, we've had a grocery store, it failed. We've had several cafes, and thank God we have the one we do. We had a bar, it failed.
I think a lot of things that they're asking though is when he's asking for volunteers, it's taking the knowledge of the people who are willing to step up, i.e. Mr. Nedman is, working diligently on that. And I no disrespect, I don't know you that well, so I mean no disrespect by this statement, but I've lived in town 9 years, been part of the city for 8 years, and I've only seen you come here in like the past year and a half. So when we're looking for volunteers, we appreciate the opinions.
Why would I volunteer?
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you is the
Why
answer.
aren't the young people volunteering?
That's,
I'm here.
that's what we're trying to.
He's here.
It takes everybody.
That's what we're trying to figure out, and that's why.
I
And no
did
one's trying
4
to get
years
in
on
an argument.
council, Chris Dreyer,
Yeah.
and I did plenty of volunteering.
No, and
And
that's why I
I
said.
20 years at the school.
Okay, okay, we don't need to get into a match of why, but this is these are the questions that he's helping us answer, is why should we, what should we do? Go ahead, yes.
The one thing that I think is being missed in this conversation is the fact that in 2018, Baltic already made a decision to have 20 hours of a city employee dedicated to economic development, and that is still in place
No.
unless when did that change?
When Mike left and we hired Becca, the conversation became, does that still continue to be economic development, or do we need to get someone in here to clean up what is happening in the office? Which we are clearly, obviously, still doing. And we decided, knowing full well, that we would utilize Jesse's group a little bit more, which is, which this prior mayor and me, that would be part of something that we'd have to work together. Part of this is not just him doing it, it's him teaching our city administrator to do it. Because that is one of the things that, when we hired her, that was not her strongest strength, just like all of us. So that's part of their job as well, is to help teach her. Who knows, 3 years down the road, we might not need Ryan anymore. We would still have the contract here, but we could get rid of that $40,000 of paying him for 16 to 20 hours if this gets taught. But we don't know that. That's the whole purpose, and we've never really had that. We had with Mike, I will say, because I was on the council, with Mike it was a lot of conversations with businesses, but you never saw anything come of it. And we would like to see something come of it, which I believe comes from help of someone that actually doesn't live here, that can see the numbers, doesn't have a personal tie or personal heart into it, where I don't like that person versus that person and this person versus this person. He's doing what's best for the city, and he's going to teach our city administrator to do what's best. So we don't have that, as I've heard a million times, the good old boys club and the backdoor things happening, because we don't want to be that way.
So
That has never been our
when
intention.
did that happen though? Because,
When we hired Becca,
but that position was posted as city administrator
Yes.
/ economic
and as a
development.
council, they chose to change that when they hired her.
when did that happen?
When they hired.
But where is that documented? I have not seen that anywhere. And it was also listed multiple times since she's been hired to be city administrator and economic development director. It's been listed in city public documents. And so it wasn't until I asked for a job description recently that it was city administrator. So I'm just wondering,
I assumed that it was
when
done,
did
but
that happen?
I wasn't the finance officer to make sure that that was taken care of, but I can go back and look at what that was.
Well, we can,
But see, what
I
that
still have all
does is
my
it
notes.
changes the conversation, because the city council decided on their own that the city administrator is a full-time position. And Becca, this isn't a statement of you, it's the function of the city. In 2018, you completely restructured because Baltic needed economic development. So the city decided to invest because we needed economic development. And so then sometime in the last year, you decided that we're just gonna go ahead and just make that a full-time position, and then we're gonna pay another $40,000 for economic development, when we as taxpayers thought we were paying $35,000 already for those services. So please understand, from our point of view, I'm not in disagreement that we don't need services or we don't need economic development. I'm looking at the fiscal responsibility of how all this has gone down. Because economic development didn't become a priority in Baltic as an investment until what, April, May of 2018? And then, we have the turnover, I get
And
that.
then he had 2 years and.
Right.
And
And
nothing
then
happened.
what happened to decide that we didn't need economic development
I don't think
anymore?
it was, I don't think it
But
was
we need
needed.
a full-time administrator
I don't think
when
it was.
we've never needed a
Okay,
full-time
let me
administrator.
answer your question. I don't believe that it was ever we felt like that we didn't need it. We discovered
Mhm.
after Mike left, that we needed more organization and we needed to focus more on the office information so that we could get to that economic development and to further move that forward. Yes, it's always been a part of her job, but that's not the main focus of her job. Do we need it to be? You're darn right. That's why we're standing here having this conversation. But in 2018, for the 2 years that Mike had it, it really did go stagnant. And we discovered that looking into the office things and some of the things that were going on at that time when he left, and we were looking to hire someone new, that we needed to get our house in order before we could turn around and push economic development even more than what was originally started. Does that make sense?
I get the
And that's
logic, but you're
where we're at.
spending a ton of money to clean house. So once the house is clean, does the city administrator position go part-time?
No, but that job could probably go away.
So then is there an exit clause? I
This
mean,
is a
because we're
year-to-year,
doing it.
yeah, there is, it's a year-to-year contract, is it not?
It's a 3-year contract.
3 years
with
contract.
renewals.
With annual renewals.
so at the end of the first year, we can,
Yes, you'll
Yes.
do that, of course.
Of
right,
course.
but, and I know, we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
And that's where I get with where you're coming from. This all happened prior to me being on here, I get it. There's probably more information out there somewhere that we don't have tonight that we'll try to get figured out and go forward. The issue or the conversation is Baltic. I got two parts to this and I want zero interruption when I say it. One is, yes, the fiscal dollars, I get it, 100%. I wanna make damn sure our money is getting used wisely. I wanna make sure that these guys are doing it. If they get hired, I wanna make sure I can see it physically. The second thing is that when community members complain or have comments or anything other than negative thoughts or inaction, for every cause there's an action. So you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. That's as plain as simple. I get so tired of sitting here listening to everybody bitch and moan about everything under the sun with all these answers, but yet nobody wants to put their own foot in front and take it and give action. That comes from these guys as well. Me personally, I've been in this community for 10 years. Since day one, I've complained about no business being in this county. It's died since I've been here. That's my biggest goal of getting on this council right now growth, economic growth. You know why? Because that helps my pocket. We can add 1,000 more houses, but 2 good businesses will go way past that for everybody's pocket. I'm not looking at just my pocket, I'm looking at everybody in our community. Yeah, is 40 grand a lot? Absolutely. Is 45 grand a lot for the year after that? Absolutely. But we're at a point now where we can say that everything behind us was done wrong, which there are a lot of stuff. I agree. I would like to know where this was at. I do, and we're gonna find it. But at the same token, Baltic is gonna die. If realistically, we're gonna be a bed rest community. You can shake your head all you want, Spy. Yep. I asked you to be quiet.
Well, let me know when you're done.
And I've heard comments from you over the years as well about certain things. And I'm not gonna point them out. I'm gonna say as a general. We gotta figure out as a community, I would like to see then everybody that says no, I would like to see them at the next economic development meeting putting their official thoughts into this deal.
When is it?
When, ask Tracy.
Monday at 5:30 right here.
So that's my open invitation from the council to the community. If everybody doesn't like this, then let's get together as a community. Let's get ideas together. I always hear about how we're never ever doing anything right in this community, but yet nobody else wants to put the effort in. It's time for everybody in this community to step up and start giving ideas and giving real ideas. If you don't want us to spend $40,000 on a year to help try to figure out how to move our economy forward in this town so it benefits everybody, you either shut up and don't say anything, or you start showing up and putting out. It's as simple as that.
And that's why I feel like part of me started the economic development. I've thought for a long time that Baltic is needing an economic development group. Because it can't just always fall on what sits at this table. I have a full-time job, they all have a full-time job, this is a part-time job, and yet we still put our time in. Same with, we have Parks and Rec Board now that is just getting up and running. Because again, we don't all have time to serve on every one of those boards. It's the start. Where it goes from there, like Aaron said, where it goes from there depends on the volunteers that step up. I believe you had to write did you have to write an essay to get on that board, or what exactly did you have to do to get on that?
It was a 2-page application with answers, and they could have been short or long depending on the
Right.
applicant.
And I, as the mayor, had nothing to do with that. There was a group that was chosen to look at those applications, and anybody could apply. There was 5.
There's 6.
6, the
5
group
of them.
chose 5, which you are aware of. I was not any part of that. But as my side, as the mayor, I have to help keep moving us forward as well. And it's just, it is what it is. I mean, yeah.
I want to share, I am neither for or against, I trust your guys' judgment, I just am very ardent about fiscal responsibility. And I feel, and this is not a statement of whether or not we should go forward or not, but it is arguable that we have doubled, an investment in economic development per se. And you've admitted, we've had 0 results, or little results.
Little prior to what's happened now,
Exactly.
clearly.
Correctly.
But which also, I believe, comes to putting the right person in that position.
Well, and there's that, but I need you to understand from the taxpayer's standpoint, the optics of it, what it looks like. Sorry, Charles, I keep going.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And so, I just want to make sure that you guys are comfortable explaining the decision. Because I believe in what Jesse does. I believe what he does, and if I question anything, it'd be the timing for Baltic right now. Do we need it today, or do we need it down the road? And so I'm not saying we don't need economic development. Every city needs economic development. I'm just wondering, do we really need it now? And that's a decision you guys are going to need to make, and you guys are going to need to justify it. But there is, because it wasn't publicly disclosed that you redesigned the city hall positions, there is a lot of questions about why we need to hire a consultant when we're supposed to have an employee handle it.
Sure.
And also it's public knowledge that the results of the original intent of that position were not met. And so as long as you guys are able to communicate that to the city and what your purpose is and the fiscal responsibility behind it, I totally support it.
So good feedback.
Thank you.
That's good context too.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't disagree with, I mean,
I don't
get it.
either,
I get it, and it is, and being fiscally responsible is one of the things that I think all of us are really, really diligent about. I mean, it takes us a lot to have that discussion if we even wanna buy, like, some of the things, like, seeing $1 million on a piece of paper freaks me out, I'm not gonna lie, to have that conversation, but we were elected and or voted in to have those conversations,
So the real question is how many of your constituents have you really discussed this with? How many people have you really explained this to and got a feel, it's a loaded question, got a feel of how they feel about it? And do they understand it and do they support it? I mean, literally, how many people have you guys talked to about this? Go ahead.
I can give you a number, but I'm not gonna. But I do make sure that I get out and I talk to as many random people as possible.
That's great.
I just, and it doesn't, and not to cross lines and wars, I talk to everybody, I don't care. I wanna hear the input, I want to, and I can tell you right now, amongst the amount of people that I've talked to, is economic growth is a priority in this town.
Do they know it's at 40,000 a year though? I mean, are you giving
Absolutely.
them all the information?
Because, just because there's maybe a dozen, two of us here, there are multiple more that are reading the minutes or
100%.
watching online.
Yep.
You know, and the questions arise maybe a day, 2 days later. Trust me, I get it from a lot of different angles. And they do understand it, but at the same token, is it hit? Yes. You know, is it a lot of money? Yes. But I would say 75, 80% of them are 100% for it because of the growth opportunities that could come from it. Now, is a 3-year thing, you know, obligation, is that pretty harsh? Does that suck? Yeah, it does, but we just also had that conversation that we hope in a year, you know, I told them this the first time I heard this, is that I hope in 3 years, we're not renewing ever again. Not because they did, we don't like them, but it's because they're doing their job for our community, that give our economic board the information to move forward on their own. You know, that's the goal in my mind.
Or conversely, they did such a good job, we absolutely want to continue the services because the measurable ROI is
Right.
exactly.
That's our goal, doing a
Right.
good job, that you say, all right, we can't go without these.
And I will tell you right now, from what I've heard from people and in my own opinion, I mean, and I will be as black and white as possible. I want to give it a year and see what happens. I really do. Because there's enough stuff coming that could be a possibility. I mean, it's public knowledge that there's a building going up on Lovely Avenue on the south side that's gonna have commercial business in it. There's a sign right out there. It's been out there for God knows how long now, 2 months, 3 months. The idea is to put commercial business in it. I would ask anybody in here if they know or have their own commercial business going in it. Nobody? Do you know of anybody outside of these two? Does our economic board know of anybody offhand that you haven't got information from these guys? So that's the value right there, is they know outside potential. Why do I say that? Because at the end of the year, I want it's measurable. If that building goes up and it sits empty, all the commercial sits empty for 2 years, and we've had them for 2 years, I can tell you right now, a third year ain't gonna happen. But if it's up in 2 years and it's filled before it even gets completed, that's a measurable amount of growth. Plus, if there's more coming down the line. So that's where I say all my stuff comes, all my thoughts, my conversations with everybody in this community matter. Good or bad. Everybody knows that I'll talk to everybody. I want input. I like input. And that's where I'm at. I rather have it for a year. I want to try it. It's better than what we've had for the last, I don't know what's both have been around.
1907.
So you look at the biggest thing that I see every day is our community is losing commercial. Look at our main street. Nikki made a prime example. I'm with you on that. We're losing business. Buildings are closing. Nobody's coming back.
Nobody even knows where this street is.
Exactly.
Big of me, man, I know.
Yeah.
And that's my point. Their help is gonna propel us to move forward. It's gonna propel our economic boards to move forward. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, do you have anything?
Yeah,
do,
I'm done talking about that.
It's just a different way of looking at leadership to spearhead this deal. Obviously, internal leadership doesn't work.
Yes.
This is a qualified hands to try to get this ship steered in the right direction, as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed. Okay, so let's discuss, do we want to approve the resolution 2021-10, a resolution supporting the work of the Economic Development Committee in further partnership with Sioux Metro Growth Alliance along with,
Tracy Zach has a.
oh, yes,
Can I just add one thing? I came here tonight as a member of our group,
What's good, you please,
the Economic Development Group. I've only been in this town for a couple of years. I think I have another 30 or 40 to go before I'm considered old blood.
we'll never be old blood.
I'm the only one here that's old.
Well, that said, when I came to this town, I wanted to make a difference. The board came up, I applied for it, here I am. I can tell you, as far as young people getting involved, I'm not that offended. I'm not considered that young. But no one on that board is, I think, over 50. There's people that are trying. Again, I'm not here to talk or ask you what had happened in the past. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on having worked with these people for a few months now. You got people on the group that are educated and experienced in finance, business, economics. I can tell you right now, I would love to be the guy
There's
that
volunteer specialists.
I would love to be the guy that takes us forward, but it's not going to be me. It can't be me alone. I'm a volunteer. We're a volunteer for this thing, and if you want to come to the meeting, I sure hope you do. I hope you bring more than, boy, we could use another cafe, because we're talking way bigger than these things. I think maybe they're pipe dreams, maybe they're not. I know we're at a point where things can explode on us if done correctly. I've seen places that develop guided, and I've seen places that develop unguided, and the difference can be astronomical. But what I fear the most is we don't develop at all. We've seen what's going on in this town, to everyone's point previously. I don't see any reason to not give these guys a chance. They have brought ideas to our table, would have never crossed my mind. The very first meeting I went to, I'm showing up thinking, hey, why aren't we looking at farmers markets and things like that? And they're going, we got to go bigger than this. We got to think bigger than this. We got to reach out and talk to people about these things. And if nothing else, they've already brought connections in front of us that I would have never known. I wouldn't know how to go about it. It's just without having dedicated time to that amount throughout the week, it can't be me.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good stance, considering my full-time job doesn't allow me to pick up that phone and get some of those connections. Like on Friday, I will be going to the mayor's roundtable. I'll be going to the mayor's roundtable. And so I'll get to see some of the other mayors, but I don't have the time to sit down in front of someone like, I barely get to see Mike and talk to Justin, even the ones that are here all the time. Because my free time is when they're busy serving me. So these guys and what they bring to the table is huge. They're bringing a connection, even if it is just a handshake, for that group to have that conversation. It's a start. You gotta start somewhere.
And I can tell you, you talk about who's happy for this, who's not. Maybe I'm a magnet for good feedback, but I talk to people and they come up to me and they go, hey, I heard you're on this economic thing. Have you thought about this, or have you thought about that, or why is our Main Street dying, or why isn't Lovely packed with stuff? Why don't we look like T, was the latest one I heard. And all I can say is, I wish it was, we're working on it. And that, leaches into the conversations about what we got this group we're dealing with, we're getting ties set up. I haven't gotten a lot of negative feedback on that. And yes, I discuss it does come with a cost, it comes with the membership. I'm not just blowing smoke, this comes with a cost. Any good investment does. Again, not a comment towards, are we spending money twice, are we doing this or that? Nothing to do with that. I have no idea on that. All I know is what I've seen with these guys is they seem to know what they're doing, and I really like working with them.
That is not an arguable point. You do a fantastic job, Jesse.
And Ryan as well.
Yes, and Ryan does too.
Is that in my short stint here, I've been contacted by 5 different companies that wanted to come to this town. 3 of them would have been little slight manufacturing, where we brought jobs, tax, everything else, but we didn't have the land, or the people that had the land wouldn't sell it. The other thing is, we had people who weren't trained to go out and grab the ball and take it and run with it. We've lost opportunities in the short stint I was here. I was talking with a fellow inspector today. Harrisburg just hit 585 permits for this year. The month isn't over. They figured they'll break 600 building permits. That's both commercial and residential. They're growing like bananas, and they don't know which way they're gonna go next. T is an example. I hope we do a better job at planning than T did.
Right.
That's kind of a scary name here, but we have a potential to grow in this town. I'd love to see it grow. And I think when Woody's building gets going and whatnot else, it'll be the kick in the butt that's gonna start the ball rolling. And we need people that know what they are doing, not part-timers. You need somebody that's got the contacts, the knowledge. If that ain't worth something, then you guys must go back to Stone Age.
All right, so we're back to the resolution 2021-10, a resolution supporting the work of the Baltic Economic Development Committee in further partnership with Sioux Metro Growth Alliance. And I do believe that it adds this contract.
This contract is included as part of the resolution.
Okay.
Only spot where I hold back is 3 years. That makes me so nervous. That is a huge commitment. I mean, what if you guys completely flop and we are not impressed?
I asked,
I know it renews every year, but what does that mean? I mean, the contract renews, but we're signing up for 3 years, so what's the?
You wanna take it as their attorney?
It's a funding out mechanism. If you don't fund the contract, the positions are no way.
We don't pay
If you
them.
don't budget it, if they don't get paid, they here comes.
So basically, we're getting in a 3-year contract, and every year we look at it, and we actually wanna fund it, that's what the resolution is for.
Thank you.
Am I understanding that correctly?
As long as we're covered there, I'm comfortable.
Yeah, from a business standpoint, I'm not a big fan of the 1-year,
Right.
repayment thing. It's insurance for you, protection for you. And it ensures that, I mean, honestly, we had
Yeah,
7 times
right.
this week. If we'll know in July or August, what it's like the budget. And then we'll know in January, when we invoice you for the second round, what things are at. So we can sell this to you, not just once a year,
Right,
but twice a year.
twice a year.
Twice a year, we can sell this to you.
Nice. Okay.
Well, come up with different colors.
Oh,
yeah.
no. Colors are gonna stay. I cannot change the land standards.
I make a motion that we approve the resolution.
Okay. All in favor say aye to approve the resolution to work with the Economic Development Committee and further partnership with Sioux Metro Growth Alliance.
I
Opposed?